This is the sacred chalice from Adam's family past, down in my digitalist diecast. Welcome, YouTube subscribers. Apparently that's the word I have to use, coming from our very own Claudia, YouTube queen. So today is our very first independent learning task for our wonderful Year 10s who are studying the Edexcel GCSE examination based on George Orwell and Macmillan and Icke's 1984. So you'll need a few things for today. The first thing you'll need is your revision guide, and specifically the first part. So from pages 5, which is the performer section, it's in light blue, all the way to roughly pages 22-23, and they're going to outline the performer skills that you're going to need to be successful in the first part of our revision session. The next two things that you'll need, which I outlined today, and I'll also put a copy of these on class charts if you weren't in this week, is numero uno, which is our written documentation of our past paper, and then secondly is the exam questions and also the exam extract, which is going to be based around the first part of skills and tasks that we're going to look at today. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn and look at pages 6 and 7. I'll just zoom that in there. Pages 6 and 7, which is the extract of our first piece of independent learning. So, it starts off and it says the torturers move in with their equipment. And O'Brien says power is power over power. Winston, yes, over the body, but above all, over the mind. Power over external, objective reality is not important. So just have a little look, spend a couple of minutes reading that first section with O'Brien. And the first thing I'd ask you to do, and you can pause as we go through, is have a little look or think about the different angles in which we see O'Brien's persona. So it's a good time now to pause this wonderful clip for all of our YouTube subscribers. Have a little pause and think about, right, what different types of character do we see, different personas of O'Brien up until this point. Pause. And play. Hopefully you've had a little think about that. And what you should have had a little think about and green penned is that we see him in different angles. This comes right at the end of the performance piece, right at the end. But at the beginning we see O'Brien as a voice. He's very mysterious, very ethereal. You might want to focus on the word omnipresent. We kind of hear him, we know he's visible, but we don't understand who he is. We then see him popping up a little few times with Winston as an overseer. He obviously meets Winston and he tricks him into taking Goldstein's book. So he is this kind of multi-faceted character, one who shouldn't be trusted. And then obviously this is the revelation where he is now the all-seeing powerful character. Okay, so the first thing you need to understand, I would be quizzing some quick flashcards, some look over right correct examples of just those different examples I've given of O'Brien. Again, it would be a really good opportunity now to pause this clip and to just outline those page numbers as well, of where that kind of knowledge comes up. We looked at that in class, roughly around the 11th to the 17th of October, and we also looked at that as well at the beginning of January, from the 8th to the 11th as well. So it gives you some indications for your titles in your books and key dates where those examples may have come up. But for me, the only way you can answer the questions for this exam paper is through truly understanding the characters at this point. I'd also ask you to do the exact same thing as well, is to think about Winston's progression from this moment in the play right at the end to the very beginning. So this should be another task where you can pause, where you can go back through your books and your set text and think about the progression of Winston from the very beginning to now. And also be looking for separate page numbers. So again, I'd advise you just to pause. And we're back in the room. So again, if you're thinking about Winston at the beginning, he is this character which is highly oppressed. He's living in a world which is ruled by the government, and two key words which I would advise you again to look back in your revision books or to research. One is dystopia, and the second is the idea of a totalitarian government or state. And have a look at those two key words, because at the beginning we see Winston sat in his room writing a diary. He's confused and he's deciding whether or not to write his true thoughts into his diary. So already we know we're seeing this oppressed, frightened character who is on the edges of rebellion. We then go to our next kind of moment where he's considering whether he's different to other people in this world. He goes through until he meets Julia, and then he realizes that he's found a connection. And we know that one of the key themes in the play is love. So that really supports with his change and development. He then sees a flashback of himself with his mother. Again, that allows him to make these choices, and you can see an upward trend in his rebellion as the play goes through. We then see him meet O'Brien, who pretends to be this this kind of rebelled character who is working with the Brotherhood, and he gets given Goldstein's book. And then we go to Charrington's antique shop, where he's given a secret room to kind of be with Julia and for this love to grow, and all the way until the end where we are now. So the rebellion's come full circle. So up until this point in the clip, you should have done two key things. Let me focus on what those are if you haven't done them. Task one is to plot O'Brien's development from the start of the play to now, picking out key quotations and key page numbers. The second objective and task is to look at and have a little research, if you're unfamiliar, of the word dystopia and totalitarianism. Those two words will really help and shape your understanding of the world in which these characters live in. And then finally, you're plotting again Winston's progression from the very beginning of the play, again right until this moment, because that's going to help you understand how his rebellion started and it built on this upward trajectory, this upward curve, and then suddenly at this point is where O'Brien just reminds him that his whole world has been this kind of facade up until this point. And that comes with that key theme of, and context of the play about who to trust, what evidence to trust. So three key things I'm asking you to do for our first session. One is to plot the progression of O'Brien, page numbers indicated and quotations. Second task is to research dystopia and totalitarianism and really understand what those words mean. Research them, YouTube, have a little look at what those words mean and get a good flavour of the environment these characters live in. And then thirdly is to plot the progression of Winston as well, and his rebellion, clear page numbers of the different ways in which his rebellion grows, even before we've even looked at this first example in our first question. Okay, and like I said, revision guides, the light blue sections from the very beginning are going to help us in our task 2, which is going to come up on our next video coming shortly. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video and it's given you a little bit of a flavour about things to come. I'm here for you. I'm not going to leave you and let your knowledge dwindle. I'm going to support you through this kind of really unprecedented time. But stay positive, keep learning, live the dream, and I'll see you shortly. Over and out.